Good morning. My name is Natasha Knapp, and it is my privilege to welcome you to the Neuqua Valley Veterans Ceremony.
And my name is Andy Wang. It's our honor to be your host this morning. In addition to being proud Wildcats, we both have great respect and appreciation for those who have made the admirable choice to serve our country.
I have the pleasure this morning to introduce Sergeant Timothy Nasser from the United States Army. Please welcome Sergeant Nasser to the stage as he calls for the posting of the colors and leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. At this time, would you please stand for the posting of the colors and the Pledge of Allegiance? Posting the colors today are 4 Neuqua Valley students who have earned the honorable distinction of Eagle Scout.
Please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem, performed by Neuqua Valley senior Miranda Juarez.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Our theme for the Veterans Ceremony today is family. At Neuqua Valley, we often think of each other as extended family members. Today, you'll hear from a number of people who are members of the Wildcat family and others who have direct ties to our Neuqua Valley family. We have 2 students who will be sharing their stories of their desire to serve our country post-graduation. For our keynote session, you'll hear some inspiring words from District 204 Board of Education member and retired Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Benny White. You'll see a video about one of our teacher's nephews who has an amazing story of perseverance that is sure to fill your heart with pride. Finally, you'll enjoy some meaningful music from our Neuqua Valley Chamber Singers while we honor, through photographs, Neuqua Valley students, staff, and families who have served. Today, we celebrate those who have risen to the ultimate call. to serve and protect the freedom that we enjoy as citizens of the United States of America. Again, thank you for being here with us as we recognize a number of heroes that have ties to Neuqua Valley High School.
Our first two speakers this morning are Paul Eikemer and Joe Tarsowitz. Paul and Joe are both Neuqua Valley seniors who are pursuing entry into a military academy. Please welcome first Paul and then Joe to the podium as they share about their choice to serve.
Some people boast, some people bully, some people are selfish. There are many examples of these people all around the world. I have learned from these people and I humbly serve. Through my U.S. history and military history classes, I learned that this country was founded on and protected by people who stood up for what they believed in. Without these people, life in the United States would be very different. I wanted to give back to those people, so I volunteered at the Heinz Veterans Affairs Hospital this past summer. After volunteering, I noticed how these veterans, no matter what branch, came together and continued to help each other. I asked a Vietnam veteran why he continues to serve, and he simply responded, "I do it because it's right." All the veterans at the hospital thanked me for helping them. I learned about my family's contributions. Some fought in the Revolutionary War, many served in World War II, including one who experienced POW hardships. Today, 3 of my cousins are actively serving in different branches in the military. All are proud of their contribution. Throughout the past 3 years, I realized that I want to become a mechanical engineer and a military occupation. I have decided to apply to United States Naval Academy and enter OTC programs as a path towards a college degree and a future career in the military. My 17th birthday was the pinnacle in my decision to serve. On February 26, 2016, I spent the entire day experiencing the life and routine of a plebe at the United States Naval Academy. It was a special honor to be invited to a candidate visit weekend. During my visit, I was often referred to as a drag. Each morning, all the plebes would memorize what was being served for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Throughout the day, someone could ask a plebe what was being served, and the plebe would have to tell him. Prior to eating lunch, all the plebes had to go to noon meal formation. When I was there, lunch was served family style. I was also able to visit many classes, including cybersecurity, math, history, and chemistry. During the chemistry class, I participated in a lab on titration. I attended the 75th annual brigade boxing match during my visit. While I was at the match, a plebe told me that every student at the academy has to take a boxing class. He told me one thing that he was nervous for was jumping off the 33-foot high dive that all plebes must do in order to graduate. This visit to the Naval Academy again showed me the brotherhood that I'm looking for when I choose to serve. Thank you.
I've always tried to do my part in a service role around my community and my country. When I was younger, I participated in a mission trip during which I would volunteer around the Chicagoland area. As I grew older, I started participating in a mission trip that took me across the country. But my freshman year was when I first realized in my interest in the military and service academies. I was talking to a senior who had recently been accepted to all of the service academies, and he brought to my attention the benefits and the honor of serving my country. As I began to do my research, I quickly found that the values that I had been taught and grown up with my whole life matched those of the United States military: honor, courage, and commitment. Veterans Day 2014 comes around, and I'm still on the fence on whether or not I want to pursue a career in the military after my high school career is over. That day, I was talking with a youth leader at my church about her experiences with veterans and active duty personnel. She said to me that we cannot just be thankful for these veterans that fight for us every day. We need to show them and tell them why we are thankful. So I thought to myself, why am I thankful for these people? I'm thankful because these men and women risk their lives every day so that we can live a safe life in this country. I am thankful because these men and women sometimes give the ultimate sacrifice so that we can go to sleep every night, not worrying about the next attack on our country or whether or not our country will be invaded the next morning. Instead, we can go to sleep every night knowing that there are men and women overseas protecting us. This is truly what my call to serve comes from. I want to be overseas protecting my country and my family from all threats. I want to be the reason that the people in this nation can go to sleep every night and not have to worry whether or not their country will be in turmoil the next morning. I want to be the reason that every person in this country can lead the life that he or she so chooses and protect the democracy that allows them these rights. I want to defend this amazing free country from all those who oppose it and keep safe the people of this nation. This is why I choose to serve. Thank you.
Could we have one more round of applause for both Paul and Joe? Good morning. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Kristen Victor, and I am a teacher here at Neuqua Valley High School. Although I am an educator who's supposed to impart wisdom on our young people, I have found that there have been many times where I have learned much more from those younger than me. Oftentimes, I learn from my students, my own children, and also from my nieces and nephews. I am grateful that today I am able to share some of what I have learned, witnessed, and experienced from a tremendous young person, my nephew and godson, Second Lieutenant Ryan P. Novak of the United States Air Force. Ryan's story is a unique one. He has not fought on any battlefields, nor has he served a lifetime in the armed forces. However, Ryan has overcome an enormous amount of obstacles that have made him one of the best airmen, godsons, and human beings around. Ryan exemplifies the Air Force motto: aim high, fly, fight, win. Ryan is constantly soaring to new heights with a positive attitude, both figuratively and literally. He sets high goals for himself and achieves them. He is currently fighting a major battle, and he is on the road to winning. His story is much like many. He is an ordinary young man pushing himself to do extraordinary things. Through his perseverance, determination, and faith, as well as his commitment to serve, support of his family, both at home and in the Air Force, Ryan will always be aiming high. I'm proud and honored to present to you in the following video, Second Lieutenant Ryan P. Novak of the United States Air Force.
The reasons Americans have for entering the military are many. Family tradition, learning a new skill, honor, personal improvement, taking a stand against terrorism, answering the call to serve your country. For 24-year-old Ryan Novak, his decision to enter the military was one that he says he stumbled upon.
I just remember one night looking through different colleges and looking at different brochures, and I saw this picture of a guy wearing his sunglasses, flying a glider, and I'm like, that looks really cool. That's something I definitely want to do. And from there, I just started looking more and more at the Air Force, and I always enjoyed flying, like just commercial flight. I had never done anything other than that, but the idea of it was just captivating to me, and I figured there's no better place to really pursue, something you would love like that than the Air Force Academy.
Ryan admits that his choice to attend the Air Force Academy wasn't about service at the time, but was instead attending the #1 aeronautical engineering school in the world, where he could pursue his dream of being a pilot and flying fighters. However, during one of his routine medical exams while at the academy, they found a problem with his eyes, which immediately disqualified him from flying. Ryan could have left the Air Force Academy, but instead chose to stay.
At that point, I had been through enough at the academy to know that this is an institution that's more than just about flying or just about the education. There's a heritage to it. and it's a very proud and honorable profession. And if anything, I was just more honored and privileged to be able to serve in the nation's Air Force. And that's what made me stay.
Ryan graduated from the Air Force Academy in 2015 and was assigned to be at Andersen Air Force Base on the American territory of Guam in the South Pacific. He was assigned to be the 36th Munitions Squadron Production Flight Commander and was in charge of over 100 people whose responsibility it was to not only build the bombs that go on the bombers, but be there to protect our nation's security in the Pacific Theater.
You're so forward of the rest of the United States that you're literally on the front line of the Pacific Theater. So anything that's happening with any of our adversaries or interests or conflicts of interest, they directly affected us. We would have to practice for certain situations happening.
While stationed on Guam, Ryan took full advantage of his time on the island. He spent a week in Japan and would often be found scuba diving almost every weekend, many times checking out World War II shipwrecks. In June of 2016, Ryan went out one evening after work to ride dirt bikes with a colleague.
So we went out and I was going on my first lap, just kind of doing a warm-up. And I made a turn and it opened up to a straightaway. And that's where I actually would put some speed into the bike. So I brought it up to about 30 miles an hour, and when I looked back down at where I was going, there was a ramp in my way. And going that fast and not having the experience necessary to handle that, I decided, in my mind, the best thing to do is to bail off the bike. But before I could do that, I had only gotten my feet off the pegs, and the bike struck, my feet hit the ground, and then I was launched in the air. And the one thing I remember distinctly is being up in the air about 15, 20 feet. I couldn't feel anything below my waist, and just thinking, this is not going to end well. So I rolled the bike when I landed, and got away from it, but I felt like both my legs had been broken. Just intense pain in my back and also like down in my legs. And we tried seeing if anything was broken, but it wasn't. And I tried sitting up. I got up a little bit, but I couldn't get my feet to move. So we ended up calling the ambulance then to, get me to the hospital and take a look.
Ryan was taken to the Naval Hospital and was told that he had a fractured spinal cord. His T12 vertebrae had been compressed and shattered into a dozen pieces. After spending a day in the ICU, he was medevaced to Hawaii, where they discovered an infection had set into the hardware in his spine, which required another surgery to clean out that infection. After spending 3 weeks in the Hawaiian hospital, he was medevaced to California for 1 day, then on to Chicago, where he began his rehabilitation.
When I was in Hawaii, it took about 2 weeks for me to get the surgeon to finally give me some sort of prognosis. And he said that I would be lucky to be walking at all with crutches in 6 months. And 1 month from the accident, I was using those crutches. So they have a 6-minute push test, they call it, which just how far can you go walking in 6 minutes. It's a good way to kind of gauge endurance, strength, and coordination. So first week, 183 feet. Second week, they had given me these forearm crutches, and I was not so great at balancing with them, but I was doing well enough, and I was able to go 800 feet. So an enormous increase. And from there, I kept getting better. I ended up leaving, and I was able to go 1,400 feet in the 6 minutes. Since then, in my outpatient care, we've gotten up to over 1,500 feet, and that's without the crutches. Over 1,800 feet with them.
Ryan still uses the crutches today, but only as a safety buffer. He can walk without them, but still needs the braces on his legs. As a testament to his determination, this past Sunday, Ryan participated in Skyrise Chicago, in which participants climbed the 103 floors of the Willis Tower while raising money for the Chicago Rehabilitation Institute. Ryan's career with the military is far from over. Since his accident, he has kept his commanding officers up to date on his progress, and he has plans to rejoin his unit in Guam prior to Christmas.
For now, the plan, I think, is going to be just to do my job as the description says, and then whenever I have the energy for it or the time for it, try to go out and be with my airmen. I'm going to also be trying to do a lot of physical therapy on my own, so a lot of time out of work after hours, swimming and trying to just get my legs back to where they need to be.
When asked to describe what he's learned about himself since joining the military and since the accident last June, Ryan summed it up in one word.
Resilience, in a word, would describe this accident, and I would say it describes my life. Nothing ever came to me easy, and I've always had to fight for it. I didn't get into the academy directly out of high school. I didn't become a glider instructor pilot, just because I put my hand up. I almost failed out of my major, but I kept pressing forward and retook those classes and had to deal with the probations that came with it to get my degree that I was so determined to get. And this accident is no different. The ability to move around, to walk, to run, to show that you can overcome any odds, that's something I want to prove, and resilience is what's going to get me through it.
Ryan is a testament to the saying that through hard work and determination, anything is possible. Before the interview was over, Ryan wanted to share his thoughts on the military for those students who may be considering a future in the armed forces.
I would definitely say that the military has made me realize that there's more to me than I thought from before, especially before high school. But even then, I wasn't realizing my full potential. I've been pushed in ways I never thought I'd be pushed. I've had to face adversities I never thought I'd have to face. And somehow, by just keeping my head down, I've been able to push through most of it and come out a better person. It gets dark sometimes, but there's always that light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you to Lieutenant Novak for sharing his amazing story of perseverance. I now have the distinct pleasure this morning to introduce Dr. Benjamin White. Dr. White is a retired lieutenant colonel who served 22 years in the Army as a field artillery officer, leading and mentoring soldiers throughout his military career before retiring from active duty in 2008. He taught at the United States Military Academy at West Point and served as professor of military science and battalion commander of the Reserve Officer Training Corps at Wheaton College. He continues to inspire and motivate students by working with the Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps program at Joliet West High School. In addition to Dr. White's decorated military career, he has also been a dedicated Neuqua Valley parent, and he currently serves on our District 204 Board of Education. Please give a warm Neuqua welcome to Dr. White.
Well, there I was, a young 17-year-old high school student with a lot of ambition and desire. Like most high school seniors, I was trying to punch my ticket to the next level, and it was time to pick a college. I was a pretty good student, an even better athlete. I had 3 criteria in my mind to make my college decision. First, I wanted to go to an academically strong school. Second, like most of you, I didn't want to have to pay for it. And finally, I wanted to play Division I football and be on national television on Saturday morning, like I always did when I was a kid. The Service Academy seemed to fit that need best. However, the academies all had a 5-year military service obligation after graduation. 5 years. I figured, hey, no big deal. I could suck it up, make it happen, right? Dr. Sullivan, Dr. McBride, fellow school board members, administrators, teachers, friends, and family, and of course the outstanding students of Neuqua Valley High School, thank you so much for inviting me today on a holiday that means so much to me. Andy, thank you for such a heartfelt introduction. It really feels great to be in Wildcat country and spend some time with the future leadership of our great nation. We are here to celebrate the strength, courage, and dedication of our veterans who not only wield the instruments of conflict, but also shape the world for lasting peace. Regardless of what you may hear in the news or in the political arena, our veterans make up the most powerful military force this earth has ever seen. There's not a nation on this planet that has the technology and leadership of the United States military. Whether on land, air, or sea, our weapons and other enablers are unmatched. But don't just think about our military in those terms. No one can mobilize 500,000 men and women and their associated equipment halfway around the world and have them prepared to engage in military operations or provide humanitarian assistance in just a matter of weeks. America's veterans have answered the call to duty, and that is why we honor their service today. That is why we honor their service each and every day. So at this time, if I have any veterans here in the auditorium, would you please stand and let's all recognize them all. I know I have a few over here. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Almost forgot what it's like to have hair. The theme for my remarks today is service and commitment. In doing so, I will use some examples from my own career to assist in illustrating our theme. First, let's understand that service is not something we are necessarily born with. We often experience it initially by accident or demand. Second, our service to our country, community, and others affects others around us. And finally, our commitment to service today will set the foundation for service in the future. To illustrate my first point, let's pick up my story from where I left off. I was accepted to attend West Point, which was great because it met all the criteria I was looking for. Now, if I'm honest, I have to admit that my approach was somewhat selfish. You see, I often tell high school students to be selfish with their education. You're at a time in your life when you should not let anything distract you from achieving your goals. Your education is something that no one can take away from you, but I did not realize the importance of service and commitment at that time. This all began to change when I got to the academy. The motto of duty, honor, and country was prevalent everywhere you looked. We learned the selfless service leaders like Eisenhower, MacArthur, and Bradley, and the sacrifices of so many others. We also learned a great deal about being there for your classmate and doing whatever you could to ensure they were successful. And I'm excited that I've got a couple of students here that are looking at going to one of the academies, and we'll have an opportunity to experience that. The relationships we developed amongst ourselves were bonds that have lasted to this day. One of the greatest values I learned during that time was the value of commitment. West Point is arguably the premier leadership institution in the world, but I can tell you without a doubt that I learned more about leadership and commitment playing on the Army football team. To be on a team that had only one winning season in 15 years to making our first bowl game in the history of the academy took tremendous commitment and leadership from the players and the coaches. We were consistently outmanned across the line by an average of 40 pounds per man, but we always felt we could beat anyone we faced. Now recall, one of my college criteria was to play Division I football and get on TV and do all that stuff. So here's a manifestation of that commitment from the 1985 Peach Bowl against the University of Illinois, your home university. Let's show that commitment.
A week off, changed some things in the offensive line and kind of got his confidence back. Today he's thrown two. On the halfback option, Lampley throwing, and a touchdown catch to Benny White. Benny White, a junior out of Kansas City, Missouri. His second touchdown catch, Lampley on the halfback option.
All right. Dr. Lee, that was for you. You told me I had to inspire you today, so there you go. Thank you for your patience. Secondly, our service to our country, community, and others affects others around us. As I said earlier, going into the Army after graduating from the academy was somewhat of an afterthought. Remember, I said I could suck it up. I'm so glad I gave the Army a chance. My first assignment took my wife Kim and I to the Republic of West Germany, where I served as a Lance missile platoon leader. This is where I learned to love soldiers. These men would bend over backwards to make sure we accomplished our mission, and in the process, they genuinely wanted me to be successful as well. They would do anything for me, and I would do the same for them. I would like to think our service was instrumental during that time as we had a chance to witness the collapse of the Berlin Wall. Those relationships and commitments enticed me to want to stay beyond my 5-year commitment. I realized I wanted to command soldiers, and I was graciously selected to command Bravo Battery, 1st of the 5th Field Artillery at Fort Riley, Kansas, Hamilton Zone. Whoop! The greatest highlight of my career. We were a mission-focused organization, but Kim and I graciously did what we could to take care of the soldiers and their families. Please understand that it's not just the service member who serves. Our families are committed as well. I can recall Kim staying at the hospital as members of our command fought and prayed as they lost the life of a premature child, or assisting me in temporarily moving families from their homes in anticipation of an oncoming flood. My family, we moved 13 times in a 22-year career. I would like to think that my children learned something along the way as well as they continue to exercise service in their daily lives. My son, BJ, who's a 2009 graduate here at Neuqua, works extremely hard doing urban development up in New York City. And my daughter, Logan, just recently returned from Costa Rica. She claimed she was building houses, but actually she did show me some pictures of her out there with a nail gun. But she's in a service fraternity out at High Point University. So I'm not sure how many of these individuals are in the audience, but if you're a family member of a veteran, I'd like you to stand as well and be recognized. Thank you. That's awesome. All right. Finally, our commitment to service today will set the foundation for service in the future. The values of service and commitment that I learned in the military have impacted my life, as I know it has many of our veterans. My story continues today as I try to give back to the country which has given so much to me and my family. Currently, I serve as a commissioner on the board of Fire and Police Commissioners for the city of Naperville. I'm also on the board of directors for the DuPage County Area Project, and I'm a member of the NAACP and our local VFW. My most humbling experience, however, has been the privilege of serving on the Board of Education for our nationally renowned school district, Indian Prairie School District 204. Being able to impact and make decisions regarding our students is something that I and the rest of the school board take great pride in, and it's something we know we have to get right. There's a reason why Naperville Public Schools were named #2 in the nation. We have involved parents, a community that genuinely cares about the success of our students, and they hold us accountable to ensure the needs of our students are met. Now, this will be my last year on the board, and I would like to thank everyone who has supported me over the last 4 years. However, I plan to continuing my public service as I'll be running for a seat on the Naperville City Council in April. So get out there and vote. Had to throw that in there, all right. So ask yourself, how can you serve and thank the sacrifice of our veterans? There's all kinds of ways. In my current job, I'm the senior Army instructor at Joliet West High School. And our mission, or our motto, is to motivate young people to be better citizens. That's what it's all about. And to see the service that those students put in to what they do on a daily basis is quite amazing. One of the highlights of our year, and I was sharing this story over here earlier, is the honor flight. And I know some of the folks here, even here at Neuqua Valley, have gone down to honor flight. What an amazing thing to witness. We'll take 120 junior ROTC cadets down and welcome home World War II, and now they're even bringing in Korean veterans. And just the excitement on those kids' faces when those veterans come out, the majority of them are in wheelchairs, is just a sight to see. And they're cheering and yelling to the point when I get them back to school the next day, most of them are hoarse and can't hardly talk. It's an amazing thing. Other things that they do from a service standpoint is we have this, we call it food wars at our school out in Joliet. And we challenge every other club in the school to give food, and we're to the point where we'll collect over 200 bags of food to help needy families out in the Joliet area. Those are just a few things. But joining the military is a great way to serve, but I recognize that military service is not for everyone, nor should it be. We also need firemen, policemen, clergy, congressmen, to name a few. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we need outstanding teachers. All right, so you students, I know your teachers are in here. Let's give them a round of applause because they definitely deserve it. Now, they are the cornerstone to the success of our district. They're constantly sacrificing and going the extra mile to make sure our students are prepared for life after Neuqua. Think about the impact that a teacher or a coach has had on your life. If you're a minority student, then please keep teaching as a viable career option. The minority pool of teachers is small, and our schools are consistently underrepresented in comparison to our student population. Keep in mind that in order to improve that representation, we have to be willing to serve and put our name in the hat. Another way to help a veteran or to serve is to volunteer in your community. Get involved with local organizations in the Naperville-Aurora area to make a difference in the lives of wounded warriors and their families. I encourage you to see the strength of our veterans and their families and look for ways to help them. Just remember, as we go forth today, our soldiers are soldiers for life. They are strong and resilient, creative and determined. I'm confident this generation will join the remarkable generations of men and women who wore this uniform and left an enduring mark on this nation. Let's get out there and work together and ensure our veterans have every opportunity to reach their highest potential. We have some great young men and women counting on us to come through for them and their families. Let's not let them down. As was said earlier, let your words bring forth action. Think of their service and their sacrifice. Don't just say thank you to our veterans, show it. So thank you for your time. I request that on tomorrow, the 11th month of the 11th day at the 11th hour, please remember all of our veterans and keep a special place in your heart for those wounded warriors and their families. And in the words of Dr. McBride, go Wildcats. Thank you.
Absolutely go Wildcats. Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone who's taken the time and the energy to be here. I'd like to thank all of you for paying tribute to the soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, members of the Merchant Marine and Coast Guard, past and present, who are willing to follow the call and serve their nation and their comrades in arms. Today we have some active military personnel that are joining us on stage, and I'd like to thank and recognize them. So please, I'd like to call out their name, but if you could please just hold your applause until I have each one of them stand and we can recognize all of them at one time. First, Dr. Benjamin White, United States Army. Staff Sergeant Timothy Nasser, United States Army. If you could both stand, please. From the Air Force, Technical Sergeant Anthony Bajan. From the Marines, Sergeant Joshua Abla and his colleague, Corporal Roseanne Opernegrao. Also from the Navy, Ship Serviceman First Class Mario Quintana and his colleague, Chief Petty Officer Callow. Could you please recognize them for their service to our country? Thank you. Thank you for wearing the uniform, and thank you for your service. I also, if you could allow me to give some other thanks. Oftentimes when we gather like this, there's symbolism. It's always important to put the students in the middle and think about the people that surround you and why they surround you. I'd like to start to my left with Neuqua Valley music. Inspires us, gives us hope, builds our memory. I'd like to thank Mr. Jay Kellner, who just recently announced his retirement. I'd like to thank Mr. Reed Spears, the wonderful Miranda Juarez, singing our national anthem, and all the singers and all the music that has graced our stage. I'd like to acknowledge the teachers who are sitting with you, the staff up in the balconies, whose call to service was to educate. My good friend Paul Roach, who served as a Navy trauma surgeon both in Afghanistan and Iraq. When I felt a measure of guilt of not being out there with him, he said, I am out there so that you are in here. And he took great pride in the idea that he was defending institutions like public education here at home. I'd like to thank Dr. Lewis Lee, who is with us, Mr. Mike Purcell, who is with us, and our superintendent, Dr. Sullivan. Only they know the hours they put in leading this district and the work that they do to keep an excellent and thriving public education system going. I'd like to thank all of our speakers, Andy, Natasha, Joe, and Paul, and Kristen Victor for sharing her story and her family's story with us. I'd also like to thank our Board of Education members. We have Mr. Mark Rising here, Mr. Mike Razak, Mr. Justin Karubis, Dr. White. They're separated. They don't want to violate the Open Meetings Act. People always ask me, how much do those board members get paid? I always say, not enough. It is a volunteer job. And without their governance and their leadership, we could not run this school district. It means the world that they have served. I'd also like to thank, I'm looking right back at him, Mr. David Perry and his assistant, Linda Jacoby. Mr. Perry, his service is to this assembly. Everything you see on stage here, he put together. And right below him is Neuqua Valley Media, Lisa Trout and her staff and students recording everything here. Could you give all of those people a huge, huge round of applause? They deserve it. They deserve it. Before we wrap up, I want to offer my remarks, and I want to offer them through two avenues. First, a memory of a veteran that is very important to me, Sergeant Major William Joseph McBride, my uncle. You'll see his picture in a few moments. Sergeant Major passed away on October 1st, 2016, career military, down in Northeast Alabama, where he had served at the end of his career in Fort Gordon and Fort McClellan. I want to reflect on my uncle, maybe to give you a roadmap to what service can do for you, much like what Dr. White encouraged you to think about. I also want to make a comment for our school on the recent political election and maybe tie the two together. My uncle, Sergeant Major William Joseph McBride, he was born in rural southern Indiana down by Terre Haute. Grew up on a farm, much like my father. And growing up in the 50s, much of the prosperity of that era missed him. And his options as he approached graduation in 1955 in Brazil, Indiana, home of the Shamrocks, was to work in a strip mine or a furniture store or to farm. And he passed a recruiting office in Terre Haute, a visit to the big city, and spoke with a U.S. Army recruiter and made the decision in 1955 to join the Army. And that decision for a farm boy from rural, poor Indiana changed his life in dramatic ways, and for me is an illustration of what service can do for all of us. He traveled the world. He became a member of the military police. He was very proud that in the beginning of his career, he stood on the wall at the Berlin Wall. He every day saw Russian and East German soldiers across from him. He took great pride, feeling that he was the front line to Soviet aggression. That meant a great deal to him. But also at the same time in that service, he met NATO allies. He served with Brits. He served with Germans. He served with French, Italian compatriots. He met soldiers from all over the world, and he developed a healthy respect for the Soviet soldiers across the way from him, who he inevitably had to come in contact with. Then, like many men of his generation, he went to Vietnam. His post was Saigon. His role was to fight the Viet Cong. He crawled tunnels. He fought ambushes. He, with great regret, recalled killing men. That was a very difficult time for him. And in his two tours of duty, he also had great respect, not only for the Vietnamese people, but for the people that he was fighting. Came back to the United States and finished his career training military police in Northeast Alabama. A few things that he developed that are pretty typical things for most people who serve in our nation's military. One, he developed a pride in his nation that he had never had before. Serving his nation, he came to know his nation and meet other members of his nation gave him a great deal of pride. He discovered discipline and order, that rules mattered, that attention to detail mattered. One of his soldiers that I met at his funeral said, if you went to Sergeant Major McBride's office, it was going to either be the best day of your life or it was going to be the worst day of your life. He was a hard guy. He was tough. He was a tough, non-commissioned officer. He also developed respect for rank. He enjoyed in the military the concept of rank and command because what it communicated to him was the idea of being something, being part of something bigger than yourself. That rank communicated that we're all part of something bigger. And he understood his part in what that something was. But also, I'd really like to share how it changed him as a person. In many ways, people might associate military service with something that could harden you, might prejudice you, might toughen you. But that was very different for my uncle. It made him more compassionate. He traveled the world. He fought side by side men and women from other nations. He served men and women from other nations. It made him more empathetic to the human condition. He developed respect for all of those people in Italy and in Germany, in Japan, in Vietnam, in Laos. Developed a respect for the nations of the world and the different conditions that people lived in. It made him humorous. It's very hard for me to be sad because he's one of the funniest people I ever met in my life. Because I think he had seen some tough things in service. It made him appreciate all the more the sweet things in life. And then finally, it made him the most worldly person I had ever met. Not only did he dedicate his life in retirement to traveling, as a matter of fact, he had a massive heart attack doing what he loved, traveling the world. But I have never in my life seen a person who moved with more ease among people who were different than him, with more natural comfort and natural ease. And I believe all of those things are things that service can do for you. They can transform you. it can make you more compassionate, more empathetic, and ultimately more human. His example serves to me a lasting example of why I'm involved in public service, why I respect these men and women so much, why I hold our board members, our superintendent, our assistant superintendent, our police, and our fire, and our fabulous faculty and staff in such high esteem every single day, because I know how service transforms them. And it can transform you when you're a citizen and you make the choice to serve. I'd like to make a comment about the recent political election, because I know yesterday was one of the most unusual days that I have had in public education in a long time. And many people have focused on what has changed. I would really ask everyone in this room to remember what has remained the same. Right now, the President of the United States is meeting with the President-elect in the peaceful transition of power. No one's being arrested. There are no tanks in the street. There's no repression of the press. Meeting in the White House, the People's House, for the peaceful transition of power as it has always been. This crowd, the people on this stage, are as diverse. The complexion of this audience and the complexion of these people who have served is the same today as it was on Tuesday. It has not changed at all. The mission of this school, to see your dreams, to help you realize your dreams. The ambitions of these board members and our superintendent to run a district that is a first-class district that represents the democratic ideals of our nation has not changed. And then finally, to our students, you go to a school that loves you, respects you, wants you here, and celebrates you every chance that it can. And that will never change, regardless of the political winds that come or go. It might feel like things have changed, but I would submit to you that actually many things have remained the same. I'm proud to be a public educator. I'm proud to be here with you. I'm proud to be with these men and women. I'm proud to celebrate Veterans Day. And that's not going to change for any of us. And I hope that you will heed any change that you see in our nation as a call to action, as a call to serve, as a call to contribute, as a call to be a part of your nation and to make a decision. I believe I am looking at the people that I will be looking up to as I grow older and older to lead me. Thank you for your service. Thank you for coming to this school every day and believing what we do is one of the most important democratic institutions, a public school in this nation. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Natasha. And as always, go Wildcats.
I would like to introduce our Neuqua Valley Chamber Singers, who will be singing an American anthem. According to arranger Alan Naplin, throughout American history, music has played an integral role in our country's expression of patriotism. The true potential of our patriotic songs, however, was perhaps never before so fully realized as after the tragic events of September 11th, 2001. From the significance of that day, America's collective singing voice gave way to a newly elevated presence for these patriotic songs, a presence that comforted, unified, and enriched a nation in need. An American anthem is written with the intention of further enhancing this new presence for the patriotic standards. America the Beautiful and the Star-Spangled Banner. The selection, an American anthem, attempts to achieve a unity in song similar to that of a nation brought together as never before. The Neuqua Valley Chamber Singers dedicate this patriotic medley to all who serve and have served in the military. Thank you for your tremendous sacrifice and bravery. All the pictures in the slideshow represent mothers, daughters, grandfathers, fathers, sons, alumni, and relatives of our Neuqua Valley staff. We treasure their service to our country and are pleased to have the opportunity to honor them today.
Stars through the perilous fight.
hear it one more time for our amazing chamber singers. These words have been used often, but still carry much weight. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate America's veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. When you see a veteran, take time to thank him or her for serving our country. Thank you all for being here today. Would you please rise as we retreat the colors?